Welcome to MindEdge, where we explore the hidden future of humanity and technology. Subscribe now and understand the future before it understands you. For years, governments and institutions have repeated the same reassuring sentence: digital identity will make your life easier. But behind the polished slogans, a quiet transformation is unfolding. A transformation that shifts power from individuals to systems, from human discretion to automated enforcement. And this week, 3 new signals appeared almost simultaneously, revealing a direction that is no longer deniable. The world is building a digital kill switch, a single command capable of freezing your identity, your money, your mobility, and your access to everyday life. Not in theory, in practice. The first signal comes from the European Union. Buried inside the latest technical addendum of the EU Digital Identity Wallet is a function described blandly as instant credential revocation. But behind the bureaucratic language lies a simple truth. You can now be switched off. Your identification, travel permissions, digital documents, and access rights can be invalidated in real time, remotely, with no physical interaction. A system administrator pressing a button becomes the difference between being recognized and being erased. And as digital identity integrates banking, medical records, transportation authorizations, and even employment eligibility, revocation doesn't just remove a document, it removes you from the system. The second signal comes from the United States. A leaked interagency memo reveals that several federal departments, including the IRS, TSA, and Social Security Administration, have begun testing a unified protocol called remote account suspension. This protocol allows one agency to trigger a cascade of lockouts across others. If your status changes in one database, the others can follow automatically. A single flag can restrict travel, delay your tax refund, freeze a benefit payment, or mark you as pending verification across critical services. It's sold internally as a tool to fight identity fraud. But its architecture is far more ambitious. It creates a digital nervous system where permissions, rights, and access become dynamic variables updated in real time. The government doesn't need to physically detain you. It just cuts your access points. The third signal is the most disturbing. The ISO consortium, responsible for global technical standards, quietly accelerated a set of norms called digital access revocation systems. These standards define how institutions worldwide should coordinate identity shutdowns, how fast a revocation should propagate, how long a suspended identity should remain inactive, how third-party services should respond when a user is flagged. This is the blueprint for a global protocol, a kill switch that operates across borders, platforms, and sectors. And because ISO standards become the skeleton of future legislation, what begins as technical guidance ends as mandatory infrastructure. Individually, each of these signals could be brushed aside. Together, they form a pattern that can no longer be ignored. Governments are aligning digital identity, financial rails, biometrics, and travel systems into a unified architecture of control. A structure where a single point of failure is also a single point of obedience. A structure where being in good standing is no longer a static condition, but a continuous evaluation. And a structure where access to society can be granted or revoked. The frightening part isn't the technology, it's the automation. Because once access becomes programmable, control becomes scalable. A human officer doesn't have to decide anything. Algorithms monitor, classify, score, and enforce. Non-compliance doesn't trigger a human investigation. It triggers a workflow, an automated sequence that locks accounts, flags documents, disables mobility, and notifies relevant systems. You don't get a phone call. You get a digital notification saying your identity is under review. In an increasingly cashless world, where payments are made through digital wallets, banking APIs, and smartphone credentials, economic existence becomes fragile. If the system distrusts you, even temporarily, your financial life freezes. Subscriptions fail. Tickets can't be purchased. Work badges don't scan. Cars with digital keys don't unlock. A kill switch doesn't need to take your freedom dramatically. It simply removes your ability to function. This shift is happening quietly because it is being framed as convenience, security, and fraud prevention. And to be fair, these systems do offer efficiency. But efficiency comes with an invisible cost: the centralization of power at a scale no analog society ever enabled. A world where the system doesn't ask permission to judge you. It observes, decides, and executes. And here's the part nobody is prepared for. As digital identity becomes the authentication layer for everything — banking, healthcare, mobility, communication, employment — revocation becomes the nuclear option of modern governance. It allows governments to enforce compliance not through force, but through digital isolation. If you cannot access services, you cannot participate in society. Control shifts from physical coercion to digital dependency. The system doesn't have to punish you. It just has to disconnect you. We are entering a time where citizenship is becoming conditional, not legally, but functionally, where being recognized by the system determines whether you can act, travel, earn, or communicate, and the margin for error shrinks. A bureaucratic mistake, a mismatched biometric, a false positive in a risk-scoring algorithm — any of these can temporarily deactivate your existence. And every system built today will be more tightly integrated tomorrow. Imagine a future where your mobility depends on your health data, where your job eligibility depends on your behavioral score, where your financial access depends on your social classification, and where all of these layers can be switched on or off from a single interface. That future is no longer speculative. Pieces of it are being deployed right now. The question is not whether a global digital kill switch will exist. The question is how it will be used, and by whom. Democratic governments promise safeguards, oversight, transparency. But history is clear. Tools of control do not remain neutral. What begins as security becomes regulation. What begins as fraud prevention becomes behavioral enforcement. What begins as an exception becomes normal. The infrastructure for conditional citizenship is being built quietly because the public would reject it loudly. But by the time people realize what the system can do, it will already be in place, integrated, normalized, invisible. The world is entering an era where your identity is no longer something you possess. It is something you access, something that can be granted or revoked. And when an entire society becomes dependent on digital authentication, control stops being a political concept. It becomes a technical function, a button, a protocol, a kill switch. The only question that remains is simple: who holds the switch? This transmission ends here. The next one is already forming. Stay aware and subscribe to Remain in the Signal.